Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, I mean.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Okay, if we can get started. I want to thank everybody for being present. We are getting ready to start with the City of Compton Charter Review Committee. Today is June the 29th, 2026, and the time is 5:32. If we can stand for 1 minute of silence while we all individually say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. All right, let's turn it over to the Secretary for a roll call.
Present. Commissioner Warren, Chairman Griffin,
Present.
Vice Chairman Butler,
Present.
Commissioner Holbrook,
Present.
Commissioner Marquez,
Present.
Commissioner Gideon,
Present.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right,
I'm sorry, really quick. These ants are real bad up here. Y'all see the ants?
Okay, we'll make sure we take care of that. Thank you. Okay, all right, so let's turn it over to public comments. 2 minutes each person. When you go to the mic, press the button and say your name.
Ron Dowell, Chairman of the Concerned Citizens Charter Review Committee. Good evening,
Good evening.
Chair and members of the Charter Review Committee. Thank you for your willingness to serve. A charter is more than a legal document. It's the people's constitution. It deserves the same care, deliberation, and public participation as we would expect of any document that defines how our government operates. Tonight, I'd like to leave you with a concern that I have. The greatest obstacle facing the committee is not a lack of talent, you are talented, or your commitment. It's the schedule. The City Council adopted the August 7th ballot deadline to place charter amendments before voters this November. But that timetable leaves very little opportunity for 4 factors that determine whether charter reform succeeds. First, deliberation. A comprehensive review of Compton's charter cannot be rushed without increasing the risk of unintended consequences. Second, public participation. The Brown Act guarantees open meetings, but open meetings alone are not equivalent to meaningful community engagement. Residents deserve neighborhood workshops, multilingual outreach, youth participation, business input, and opportunities to understand, but not merely to react to proposed changes. Third, legal precision. Every amendment should be carefully reviewed for consistency with state law, the existing charter, and the city's ordinances and administrative practices. Finally, implementation. Even the best recommendations require planning, funding, staff training, and political commitment to become lasting improvements rather than well-intentioned ideas. My request is simple. Recommend that the City Council provide this committee with the time and resources necessary to complete a charter review that earns the confidence of the people of Compton. If additional time is needed, the long-term integrity of our city's governing document is more important than meeting self-imposed deadlines.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Lynn Boone, City of Compton. I see that your, this discussion is going to be from the charter sections 100 to 700. I just want to address 601 of the charter, which is powers vested in the city council. All powers of the city shall be vested in the city council, subject to the provisions of this charter and to the Constitution of the State of California. It shall be the duty of the city council to enforce the provisions of this charter. I'm reading this to you for one thing, and I know that if you haven't noticed it, you will notice it later on. The council doesn't even read the charter. Half of the council members don't even know we're a chartered city or what a chartered city is. So how can we depend on them as people to enforce the provisions? And when you look through this charter, you're going to see as you go along that there are violations that can be made to this charter. And the city is in a difficult position because if we're depending on these people to uphold the charter that don't know the charter, that mainly are the ones that are violating the charter, then who should we address as defending the charter for the people of the city? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charter Review Committee. My name is Arnaldo Gutierrez. I'm in the 4th District, the president of Sloan and Steady Black Club. We are going to have a meeting to discuss the charter, and I was wondering if I could invite the members of this committee that represent the 4th District to be part of this conversation as part of, community engagement. So I don't know if that's something that you guys can answer, if that's possible, or if would it be violating any rules if a member of the committee, I think it's 2 or 3 of you that are part of the 4th District, be part of this conversation. Thank you. When is it? It will be on Friday. This is the first one. This Friday in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamara Benz, Assistant City Managers, just to provide a response to the public comment. Members from the 4th District, they can go and listen to comments, but I would advise you to refrain from engaging in dialogue because you would be conflicted out if you possibly had to then come back to this legislative body and vote on the items that are discussed without your full body. But you are able to go and listen to feedback. Hope that makes sense. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Public comment?
Good evening. My name is Isaac Asbury, and I'm the president of the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice for the Southwestern region. But I am a 60-year resident of the city of Compton. This is my second charter meeting I attended in 12 years because all the commissions was full of crap. So I want to thank the city manager here for going forward, because you know you're going to get a lot of flack. I'm going to be quick. I want to give you a copy of charter recommendations. This is from Cynthia Macon. I am not going to be able to read it all, but I want to address a couple of things she wanted to say in less than a minute. She says, the residents of the city of Compton voted overwhelmingly in 2023 to pass Measure CA to reform the Compton City Attorney's Office. She says, I paid good money to keep this important reform passed in this community. She says, we need, this chapter, the Charter Commission to not eliminate, erase, or manipulate the original intent of Measure CA, to ensure we are switched to a 10-year experienced municipal law firm. Then she goes on to section 702, which you guys are probably familiar with. So I will give this to the clerk And I want to thank you. The clerk.
I didn't get it. Good evening, Commissioners. My question is...
Can you start with your name, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry. Missy Barber, City of Compton, and a Commissioner of the Grants Department. I'm speaking as a resident now. My question is, I noticed that, this is my second time, but I noticed that the chamber is pretty empty and we don't have a lot of the residents. So my question is, for you, the chairperson, how could you go about implementing or either posting or either coming to a council meeting to let the residents know that, you know, this is important that you guys come because this is our bylaws. And it's important if you want to have your input or some say in reference to our charter. I also would like to say that I noticed that it's only one person I see, two people I see sitting up there that attend the council meeting. And I'm advising that some of you, maybe all of you, should attend our council meeting. Therefore, you would know or see the violations that's been going on for quite some time within the council. It's very important that once we go through chapter 100 through 700, that we amend what is needed per the charter, the Brown, the Robert Rules Act, because it has not been done. Basically, I hope to see some of you guys, or most of you guys, come in, sit in, and kind of get a view of what goes on within the council meeting. You might see it on TV, but seeing it in person, it means a lot. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else for public comments? Okay, so moving on into new business. Thank you. Let me just give a recap to where we left off for those who didn't have the pleasure of being here or listening in. Where we left off as we went through section 600. We spent the entirety of the last meeting going through 600. There were several recommendations made for 600. And before we move into 700, let me just revisit 600 just one more time, just to see, is there anything that the members that we didn't address that you want to address in section 600?
Vice Chair Butler. That one was for 603. I would simply just state that I would like to withdraw my recommendation regarding the proposed change to the council meeting schedule. The voters have already spoken on that issue, and I respect their decision. So that's what I would like to do for 603.
Vice, can you just clarify what was your recommendation?
My recommendation was to move to from 4 days to 2 days.
Okay. Okay, so there is a recommendation from Vice regarding a previous recommendation for section 603, where the recommendation at that time was to reduce the number of council meetings from 4 to 2. Vice is recommending that her recommendation be rescinded. Does anybody have any objections to that recommendation? And if so, let's discuss.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lister, I can't say I have an objection to it. I'm just interested if the commissioner can explain why she wants to pull it back, because it was something that I was interested also. So just
Yes, it's a fair question.
So the reason why I was speaking in regards to that, more of the physical responsibility of what, again, coming from being a government employee, thinking of staffing, and also just making sure that staff have more than enough time. I do pay attention to some of the meetings online based on my schedule, but sometimes working in the environment, sometimes when we're being rushed or say there is a situation that is going, making sure that we do the proper research and making sure that we have enough community engagements and different information. So for me, it was more so physical responsibility and also looking at it from financial standpoint as a, also as a concerned citizen. So that was my concern. But the voters voted for it, and maybe later on we can revisit that, but that was the real reason for my situation.
Okay, so again, any objection to the recommendation to rescind? Again, the recommendation was previously put on the table for a reduction in council meetings from 4 to 2, and Vice has requested that that be rescinded. Any other objections, anything? All right, then let the record show that that particular recommendation has been rescinded, and there were no objections. Okay, so we are moving on into section 700. Again, just to give a recap for those who didn't have the pleasure of being here last week or the previous weeks, we have sections that we have already reviewed that we as a collective have decided that we're going to keep, meaning we have looked at those sections and there are no changes that anyone on the committee wants to make. So those items will be referred to as kept items, meaning no changes. And then we do have items that we have identified in this context as tabled, meaning we wanted further discussion. Okay, so we're going to go right into section 700. I will read the section and the title. I won't read the information in that section. Every committee member has their charter in front of them, and we'll open up for discussion. All right, let's start with section 700. City Clerk. Open for discussion. Yes.
Okay. On the city clerk, I would like to see more qualifications listed as a city clerk. From what I'm seeing now, there's no qualifications at all that you would need as an elected official. Also, maybe down the line, we can have the city clerk appointed instead of elected.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Yes, Vice.
Vice Chair Butler, I was just going back, and also just to remind us to, I think I'll have to go back into looking exactly where we got it from to be able to take that from, was it 500, I think it was? To add that information for city clerk, but I'll come back and redo that. But I too do agree with the committee, just making it more cleaner and more information in regards of the position. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Marquez.
Commissioner Marquez, I initially sent on the clerk on subsection E, it says have charge of all elections. I sent over Vice Chair about Measure 1. You want me to elaborate it on now, or you want me to wait till section 1300 since?
What section are you referring to when you say E? Were you talking about section
I
700?
had initially sent over to recommend we follow suit with Huntington Beach with an all in-person show your ID voting system. And I was told to wait until section 1300, which addresses
yes.
elections. But since
That's correct.
she's over elections and it's in here, do you want me to recommend it now, or do you want me to wait till section?
You can give us a preview, and then when we get to that section, you can go
Okay.
into detail.
So basically, in, I believe, April, the governor approved, I believe it's AB 73, and it's, to me, in my opinion, it's a loophole for the way the ballot is counted. Basically, what 73 is stating that if the signature didn't match previously, they would contact you and you would have to cure the ballot. Now he's saying that we can waive that, and he wants the county recorder just to count the ballot without curing it for signature purposes. So that when I seen that was a big loophole, I did some research, seeing that Huntington Beach went ahead and they're all in-person, show your ID, and they're also a charter city. And I like the way everything was laid out. So, I mean, it'll save us time. We can basically just copy what they did, and if the commissioners want to add anything that's a concern to them, we could do it at that time, but that is one of my recommendations as far as the city clerk's duties and obligations. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Lister.
Commissioner Lister, not to be adversarial, not to be anything in those words, and if anyone takes it that way, I own it. Huntington Beach is nothing like Compton. Huntington Beach is a very strong Republican city, and there's a reason why they tried that. If we're going to mention Huntington Beach, repeatedly mention the fact that they're currently engaged in a lawsuit with the state of California. More importantly, today, the U.S. Supreme Court eliminated all the things he was trying to do for voter suppression. It had nothing to do with voter ID. I'm sorry that anyone takes it that way, but I'll never back that. I'll never. Huntington Beach has nothing to do with Compton. It doesn't even look like Compton.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Contreras.
Yes, and maybe Ms. Diaz can elaborate on this, but there was recently a court decision. The Court of Appeals stated that the law that Commissioner Marquez is speaking about as far as Huntington Beach is unconstitutional, given that it contradicts that of the California Constitution. The Supreme Court, the California Supreme Court, decided not to hear that and to basically leave the Court of Appeals decision or opinion in enforcement. So unless, I don't know, again, Ms. Diaz is probably more keen to elaborate on this, but my understanding is that would not be legal. It would go contrary to the state constitution, and therefore we would not be able to run afoul of that.
Yes.
That is my understanding as well. I have not read the case, but I understand from various publications that the Supreme Court decided not to hear the case, and that the lower court, which was the appellate court, held that it was unconstitutional. I don't know the finer points of the unconstitutionality of it, but I believe it had to do with voting rights being an issue of statewide concern.
Can I answer, Chair? The reason why I brought that up, and the last time I looked, and I'll do some more research, they're ready to go on that measure moving forward. The reason why I bring this up is because when, and I know we're nothing like Huntington Beach, but when it comes to someone's voting privileges and there's so many loopholes in the cheating system, Huntington Beach brought this upon because of the surrounding cities, Staten and Westminster, that had a lot of cheating going on. Similar to here in Compton, a lot of council people not living in the districts that they were representing, and they got put out. So that's why I brought this case, because they're similar until the council people, there's a number of council people sitting on our dais that don't live in the city of Compton. So that should be concerning to everybody that lives and pays taxes in Compton. So that's why I brought this up. I know there's no comparison, but the cheating-wise, there's a lot of comparison. Thank you.
Chairman.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, Commissioner Lister, just to chime in, Tamara Benz, Assistant City Manager. Just a reminder for the group, we are able to espouse our thoughts and our viewpoints, but we have to refrain from making allegations that we cannot substantiate. So Commissioner Fidel Marquez, I will just say allegedly, we don't want to make that as a definitive statement. We here are not able to determine if someone does or does not live in the city. I'm sure that the city clerk has vetted that, but to ensure that this body is protected legally, I do have to step up to the mic and say that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And, you know, I believe in facts, so you can Google it. On June 24th, U.S. federal judge permanently blocks Trump's executive order requiring proof of citizenship to vote. So even discussing this is just something that's nothing more than rhetorical conversation. I don't know why we are belaboring this. And in case anyone's wondering why I'm so passionate about this, because I see it for what it is. Now, we're going to keep saying voter fraud and whatnot. Please bring proof. I'll be the first person to stand for it. I think we got bigger fish to fry, and I'm going to always speak out against that. It's voter suppression. And once again, that's Orange County. Compton doesn't neighbor Huntington Beach, so I take offense with that.
Okay. All right, let me just jump in if I can. So just where we are with Section 700, there were three recommendations. One, to add additional qualifications for the city clerk, and another to require that the city clerk be appointed versus elected. The third one was raised by Commissioner Marquez, just with regards to the in-person ID and signatures matching. It sounds like, Commissioner Marquez, would you be okay with waiting until we get more information back from the attorney, just in terms of the specifics about the appeal
That's
and what happened?
perfectly fine, Chair, yes.
Perfect. All right. Anyone else in Section 700? Yes, Vice.
Vice Chair, as earlier what I was speaking in regards of what we wanted to add from the last meeting, that was in Section 606. The second paragraph, if we can add that under her duties, the city council shall, so that was the only thing that I wanted to add in there.
Okay,
I know we spoke about
can you say that one more time?
Okay, under Section 606, the second paragraph, if we can add that under the city clerk.
Section 606, the second paragraph? Okay. And the entire paragraph as is, or?
Yeah, we can definitely.
Okay.
Did we say we're going to remove it? Oh, because of the, oh, it's repeated. So disregard, we said we were going to remove it because I think it repeats itself. Okay, disregard.
Okay. All right. So just to be clear, so the last recommendation that you requested, you're disregarding. Okay. All right. Is there anything else in Section 700 other than the three items that we just discussed? Yes, Commissioner Quinteros.
Just a housekeeping. I do plan on making this motion at the end when we go through the whole charter of just cleaning up the language. I think we've all discussed from there to there. But specifically on this one, there's two subsection E's, so just correct the subsections. There's, the two E and F.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yes. Commissioner Lister.
In regards to the city clerk and what Commissioner mentioned, it, I think what we're looking for is certified municipal clerk. That is the professional certification that city clerks have. That's kind of similar to what planners have when they get their planning certification, the AICP. And most jurisdictions require that the city clerk either has it at time of election. I think the city of Carson gives the city clerk a year to earn it, because you can only get that certification if you are currently a deputy city clerk or you have recently become an elected city clerk. So that's a certification that if we request that they be professionally certified to do the job, that they obtain it within a year.
Okay, so just to be clear, your recommendation is what specifically?
That if we do require a city clerk to have certain professional certifications, the certification that should be required specifically is called Certified Municipal Clerk. people who complete that training are considered professional city clerks.
Okay.
The equivalent to an engineer having their state certification and things of that nature.
Okay, all right. Moving on to section 701, city treasurer. Open for discussion.
I would like to say the same thing, just the certification, just making sure that they have the background in education certification for that position also.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair, apologize.
Thank you. Anyone else? Section 701, city treasurer. Yes, Commissioner
Baker. As it reads, I don't believe that the city treasurer has to attend all meetings. That would be my recommendation, to add that they would have to attend all meetings, similar to the city clerk.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so the two recommendations that we have is to recommend that the city treasurer has certifications, education and certifications, and that they be required to attend all meetings equivalent to the city clerk. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Quinteros.
Yes, as far as the certifications, I would recommend that the same recommendation made by Commissioner Lister, to give them up to a year to attain those certifications. I don't think it would be it would open the position to competitive nominations if we required it from the onset. But if you do get elected, you have a year to get those certifications under your belt.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lister. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Marquez, I want to add one thing to be put in here. There needs to be bonded for the clerk and the treasurer, if we can just put it in here. And then also, I just have a objection to the 1 year. If you're willing to run and put the time in, you should have that already lined up. You have 4 years to make up your mind if that's the route you want to go. So from day one, you should be ready with a plan and with all certifications. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lister.
And on a level, I kind of agree with what Commissioner Marquez is saying. If we bring it back to the position of city clerk, because the only way to get certified is if you are a city clerk, then we're kind of eliminating the number of people who will be eligible to get that certification. So I think someone had mentioned it earlier, that maybe the conversation should be consideration of making those two positions appointed. And the reason why I said for discussion, not me pushing one way or another. I don't know what type of certification you would have to allow you to be a treasurer beyond an MBA in finance or undergraduate degree in finance or X amount of years in the financial world. I don't know if there's a certification out there that says you're certified now to be a treasurer beyond education. If there is, then we should specify you need to have this certification or whatever, or
let me just put a pause in here. So I just want to remind everybody that the Human Resources Director will be present at our next meeting. So a lot of this, I think we're getting into the weeds. We would have more response from someone more qualified to make statements about specific job titles and classifications. So we may not want to go down this path necessarily because, again, we'll have a qualified person here and we can ask those questions then. Yes, Commissioner Contreras.
So looking specifically at what tools someone would have to qualify them to run and be elected, I think ultimately that question is up for the voters, who they feel. If two people run, one went to Harvard MBA, one did not, went to, graduate from high school and then went on to open their own business. Those would be the two competing qualifications for a city treasurer, and that is up for the residents to decide which person they would vote to go ahead and take that position. Now, some may say, oh, the Harvard, some may not, but at the end of the day, that's democracy, and the winner's the winner, and we all have to live with whoever that winner is. Now, my comment goes specifically to after that. If there are certain certifications and trainings that a city clerk or a city treasurer can attain, the state offers all types of trainings and stuff for elected officials. It would be my recommendation that they be required to attain any certification that's offered from the state or attend trainings that are offered from the state. But I just want to make the clear distinction that is different to me than what would allow someone to run for a position. Because I don't think we should limit a person's ability to run. At the end of the day, the voters are going to decide, and it's democracy. The winner's the winner, and we may not like it, but that's who the winner is.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Commissioner Quintero said, I think it should be presented to the voters similar to, what was that, Measure CA, where that was presented to the voters of the, the city attorney having 10 years of municipal experience. I believe perhaps that should be placed on the ballot where, you let the voters decide if they feel that the city treasurer should have a certain amount of experience or the city clerk should have a certain amount of experience. Furthermore, I would also say that, if you are running for a position such as treasurer or clerk, I don't think it's a bad thing that you have some experience. I believe, even if it's as an assistant city clerk or as assistant, city treasurer in another city or another county or municipality, I'm not opposed to that being a requirement. So I guess I'm not opposed to that being put on the ballot and leaving it up to the voters of, well, these are the recommendations that we have of the experience that, the city treasurer should have, and see if they vote on it or not and say, we agree with those recommendations, or no, we don't think you need to have this type of experience in order to run that, so that's what I would say to that.
Okay. All right. So there's no one else for 701.
I'm sorry. One last thing with 701. So, and perhaps the assistant city manager can elaborate on this. So, previously I've attended council meetings, and to my knowledge, the current city treasurer has given some presentations on, I guess, some investments of city funds, and I don't know, some mutual funds or different financial vehicles. Is that currently the job of the city treasurer to handle things such as investments of city funds, or is that beyond their scope? Yes, that's my question.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Baker. That is part of the responsibilities of the elected city treasurer. As the chair said, if you wanted to delve deeper into the actual job descriptions, of the city treasurer and the city clerk, being that they are elected. Our Human Resources Director will be here at our next meeting on July 6th. And yes, the city treasurer, during my tenure here in the city, does provide quarterly updates on the city's investment policies. And I believe there's also a bond measure update also that the city treasurer provides.
Well, I would say two things to that. I would say perhaps that can be more clearly spelled out in this charter, that that's their responsibility, because I may be overlooking it, but I don't see anything about a duty of investments, because that's a whole separate set of, what's the correct word, fiduciary responsibility. You know, I see this makes it seem like it's just general bookkeeping and accounting, but investments is a different thing. So I believe that could be a recommendation of that added to this. The second thing I would say in response, thank you for responding. I am looking forward to the HR director speaking, because from my research, I don't think there are any clear job descriptions for any of these elected positions. From my research, even when I looked into the position of city council and mayor, there wasn't a job description that they could provide, to my knowledge. So I would be curious, what is the actual city treasurer's job description per HR? And if, again, as we've discussed before, if that needs to be more clearly outlined within this document, or if this document needs to give reference to, well, refer back to the HR, current HR job description on this. So I guess in summary, the first thing, I guess I would recommend that we add something be added in here about the city treasurer having investment, charge, and also, I guess we just wait and see for the full job description from HR, if there is one.
Thank you very much. Staff takes that under advisement. And as we have mentioned previously, in addition to the charter, when it comes to staff and job descriptions, there also is another governing document, which is the personnel rules and regulations, which the HR director will be able to speak to and provide an in-depth response to the board's questions in regarding to job duties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for section 701, just to give a recap for our audience purposes, recommendations include ensuring that the responsibilities, the job duties of the city treasurer are spelled out, to also include their roles with investments, making the position appointed. That is also a recommendation. Also, putting the qualifications to the voters to vote in terms of what do the voters believe the qualifications for the city treasurer should be. We also got a recommendation that the city treasurer be bonded. We also got a recommendation that the certifications that were recommended, that the person be given a year to obtain such certifications, and we also got an objection to that. And we also got a recommendation that the city treasurer attend all meetings equivalent to that of the city clerk. All right, is there anything else before we move on into section 702? Yes, Commissioner Lister.
Mr. Chair, for the record, can you say who recommended the positions be appointed?
I'm going to turn that over to you.
Oh, I didn't catch it. I know what my comments were, if we're going down this path, maybe the discussion should it be appointed? I didn't make the recommendation that it should be appointed. I was saying that the discussion.
Someone did, yes.
Okay.
But we'll have to get that information back in transcripts.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Moving on into section 702, city attorney. The same disclaimer that was given earlier, I'll give it here, just so that we don't spend precious time with questions that we won't be able to have answers to today. Again, the Human Resources Director will be present at the next meeting, and that would be the best person to answer a lot of, if not most, questions with regards to job duties and job responsibilities and things of that nature. So if you get there, you may see me professionally redirect you so that we can have that question answered by the most appropriate person. All right, so City Attorney, Section 702, open for discussion. Yes, Commissioner Marquez.
Commissioner Marquez, since this position is elected, I just had a question of why wasn't it addressed in the charter? If the measure calls out what the requirements are for their attorney, it makes no sense to leave 702 in the charter. And also, I have a question.
Can you repeat that first part? Just repeat it one more time for clarity.
The position, if it, we changed it over from Measure CA to an elected, appointed position. So my question is, why wasn't 702 addressed in the charter? You know, CA has its requirements as far as who they can appoint, but you left 702 in the charter untouched. So either we remove it or we add what CA requirements are in subsections into 702. So that was just confusing to me that you make the position appointed and then you still don't address 702. So it's confusing and it contradicts what the charter is saying and what the measure is saying. And then I have a question for council. And this is if you know, and if you don't know, if you can bring us back some information. When a measure goes to the Secretary of State and it says received and file, to your knowledge, is it just that, received and file, or does it go to like a legal department to make sure the amendments are not putting the city at risk? Or is it just what it states, received and file?
I believe it's just what it states, but I'll need to check the provisions of the code to ensure that that is the case.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gideon.
Yes, I have one question. At the last council meeting, there's no city attorney. There are 9 law firms. So who sits at city council meetings? What is the position of that person, that attorney?
Commissioner Beck, I would agree. I think that's a great question. Like, who actually is the attorney, or what are all the firms currently that are representing the city? Who sits, who sits now? Who's sitting in wait? Who are all of the attorneys associated with the city?
Thank you. I'm happy to speak to that item. I'm actually the staff member that presented that last Tuesday to council. That was staff item number 13. So at our city council meetings, we do have someone sitting where Commissioner Gideon is currently sitting. We do have special legal counsel from the firm Alshire and Winder, and they've been serving in person at our city council meetings as our special legal counsel. In addition to Alshire and Winder, the item that I brought forward to council last Tuesday did list a total of 9 firms that are on retainer with the city that are currently engaged in active litigation, including employment law, housing law, it could be water and sewer bond rights, and they have been previously engaged with the city, and we're currently working with our city even when we did have an elected city attorney. And just for the record, in 2024, November of 2024 is when the last item went to council. There were 13 total outside law firms in addition to an elected city attorney. That number has now been reduced to 9 law firms that are on retainer, and they are all engaged in active work with the city.
Okay. Commissioner Quinteros.
I have a few recommendations for this section. Number one, I do want to address Commissioner Marquez's point, and the charter was updated. If we read 702, it says that it is an appointed position, and that it requires a 10-year experience in order for them to be appointed. I want to address that point. But however, there are changes that I think we need to make to this section. And this one, this particular recommendation, I think is to any appointed position which are vacant. 702 does not state a timeline for the appointment of a vacant city attorney. So I think that's one thing we need to do. If that position is vacant, city council is to fill it within, say, 30 days or something, but we need to give them a time limit to fill it. Secondly, I do want to address a question that was brought up in public comments regarding Measure CA, and I was looking over the package brought by Mr. Asbury, and one of the points says that to clarify whether it's an individual or a firm. And my reading of Measure CA, I was pulling it up, and it's broad. It doesn't say it's only a firm. It says the city attorney position is appointed, and that appointed individual needs to have 10 years of experience. Well, that appointment needs to have 10 years of experience. I don't know if this is something that was thought about when Measure CA was drafted and presented, but I don't know, and that was my recommendation for them to clarify. I don't know if that means they have to resubmit it to the voters, but the way the ballot measure reads, and it's online, it's that the city attorney position is appointed. It doesn't say appointed to an individual or to a firm. A firm can have 10 years experience, an individual can have 10 years experience. I don't think there's any clarity to that, so that's a recommendation I would make, clarify. My gut feeling is that would require this whole thing to go back to the voters, but I'm not sure about that. Lastly, I'll do this one. Subsection F, just minor things here. Responsibility of the city attorney is to prosecute on the behalf of the people such criminal cases for violations of this charter, of the city ordinance, or of misdemeanor offenses arising upon violations of the laws of the state, as in his opinion, or that of the chief of police. Currently, misdemeanor crimes in Compton are prosecuted by the district attorney's office. We contract with them to go ahead and prosecute those crimes. So I would update that section, maybe adding except those ceded to the district attorney's office, just because we don't prosecute our own misdemeanor crimes. We do, my understanding is we do hold the power to prosecute violations of the charter and ordinance violations, but if someone violates, say, a DUI, a misdemeanor violation of the penal code, the city attorney does not prosecute that crime. We contract with the district attorneys to do that. So I would clean that up. That's my third recommendation. And because this position is appointed, just something I would recommend is when we list out responsibilities, it makes it look finite, right? These are responsibilities. I think there are many responsibilities that this group and future groups and past groups may not consider or have thought about. So adding the simple language, the responsibility shall include but not limited to X, Y, Z. And so it makes it broader in case there are things that we as a body have not thought about.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gideon, your light is still on. Do you have a?
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
I just have a
Marquez.
question, Chair, Commissioner Marquez, to staff. When we started, we were given this charter here. If there's another charter with updated amendments, we need that to make our proper recommendations. So staff, if we can get the updated charter, I'll appreciate it. That way I'm not all over the place because from my understanding, there is an updated charter that addresses CA, but from what I have, it's
What's
not.
the date on your book, Commissioner Marquez?
November 5th, 2024.
Thank you very much. Let me review, and I will send the board a message first thing tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone else? Section 702? 702? Okay, so let me just give a recap as in terms of what I've heard, but we also have a record just in case I am wrong. But we have recommendations to include Section 702, Section F, clarifying language with regards to misdemeanors and who prosecutes those. It was stated that the district attorney does that, so if so, updating language. Also, recommendation for a specific timeline for vacancies to be fulfilled. Also, adding updated language in terms of the duties and the roles and responsibilities, and clarification of where it talks about the appointment. Is that a person or a firm with specifics to the 10-year requirement, just being really clear and specific. So a lot of clarifying information in this section. All right, moving on into section 703, officers to be appointed by the city council. Open for discussion. Secretary, you may, I was going to say, Secretary, you may or may not have the notes in terms of who put this as a recommendation, and if so, I was going to ask you to pull those notes, but Commissioner Quinteros.
Give me 1 second, sorry.
Of course. Again, everybody, we're in section 703.
I would again recommend adding timelines into the appointment of any vacancies for any appointed position in the charter.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I got a question. Dolores Holbrook.
Yes.
It says officers to be appointed. Then it says the city council shall appoint the city manager. What officers? It says officers, and then it only addresses the city manager.
Okay, so you
Mr.
want?
Chair,
Yes.
I believe, and maybe staff can help me out with this, I believe the city manager's office is not referred to as a Department of Public Works and so forth. I believe it's referred to as the office of the city manager, and I believe the controller's office is referred to as the office of the city controller. So it's probably something that should be cleaned up to say specifically appointment of city manager and eliminate the word officer, because it can confuse people. Yeah.
Yes, I do think that is accurate. If that's something that the board wanted to look into, correct.
Commissioner Dolores, can you just clarify, just for the record, just say again, what's your recommendation for section 703?
It should be cleaned up because it says officers were only speaking about the city manager, and as far as I understand, that the controller is also up under the city council.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Commissioner Lister?
And maybe when we're looking at going to Commissioner Contreras and mention about a time frame for appointing a city manager or a city controller, understanding maybe someone can, the HR director can let us know why the process takes as long as it does take, and maybe there's a rationale why it takes 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Because I know historically, when we've filled the position of the city manager, the city, I think for the last 2 or 3, the city has hired a job search. I mean, I don't think professionally call it a headhunting firm, but an outside agency to do the hiring process. So that means that X amount of time to enter into a contract, and then they start their thing. So the question might be, how can we shorten the process up? Do we have the resources and staff for our own current HR department to conduct a job search for a city manager? When we start to look into putting a time frame on it, maybe we say a city manager should be filled within 90 days. Well, is that enough time to hire an effective city manager? I don't know what is an effective time, but I know we average about what, a year, 6 months to a year between hiring city managers, and I'm not sure if that's long or short. I don't know what the average is.
So, Commissioner Lister, I hear you have a question that, again, that would be best for the HR director.
No, I guess my question would be,
Did you have a recommendation as well?
I recommend that we identify what is an appropriate time frame to fill the position of a city manager. And then once we identify that, put that into the charter.
Okay, understood. All right, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Contreras?
So under 703, it spells out specifically the positions that are appointed by the city council. So city council appoints city manager, the city controller, as paragraph 2 states. I think we then need to add a third paragraph for city attorney, since that is now also a appointed by city council position. And I don't think unless, I don't know if the assistant city manager can tell us if there's other city council appointed positions, but those are the 3 I can think of that are appointed by them.
Commissioner Quinteros, there are no other. The other ones, which would be our city treasurer and our city clerk, are elected by the residents. Thank you.
So that would be my recommendation then, just to add a third paragraph stating that the city attorney position falls under that.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner
Marquez. I have another recommendation, since it's talking about appointing some of the highest paid positions in the city, and then we still pay firms on top of that. There's a lot of money spent, so I think we should add a section in here where the community is involved in a roundtable setting interview process where we're not just somebody thrown at us and we don't know what was asked, where this person came from, what their qualifications were. And I think that'll cut down the turnover of so many city managers. So that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, before I get to you, Commissioner Gideon, I think Commissioner Baker has a question.
I'll let Commissioner Gideon go first.
Thank you.
Shirley Gideon. My comment regarding the controller has to do with time for a vacancy. How long should this position be unfilled?
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Baker, my question pertains to the removal of one of these officials, and it's saying they need at least 3 affirmative votes. I'm not sure if the assistant city manager or if legal counsel can opine and speak to this. But I believe this was an issue recently with the previous city manager, where it was something about, I guess it was 2 votes that were affirmative votes and 1 vote abstained. And there seemed to be some confusion, even from legal counsel that was present that day. So what is the clarification on that?
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Being that that matter may be involved in current litigation or anticipated litigation, which may be agendized for an upcoming closed session hearing, I'm going to refrain from commenting on that subject, and also let our on-site legal counsel know that that's an item that we wouldn't opine on at this matter at this time.
Well, if I may, because I believe that is important to us addressing this, because the language is in the city charter. So let me rephrase my question. Not pertaining to a specific incident. In general terms, what does 3 affirmative votes mean?
I'll go ahead and hand that over to our legal counsel.
So I think the words speak for themselves when you read the word affirmative, meaning that it's an affirmation, it's an affirmative vote. So it would be, I guess, if the decision was to remove an employee and it needed to be by 3 votes, let's say it's a body of, body of 5, needed to by 3 affirmative votes, that would be 3 yes votes.
And just for clarification, an abstention is not an affirmative vote.
So generally, no. I think that when in drafting language like this, a point was made to say, affirmative votes instead of just 3 votes, because under Robert's Rules of Order, it depends what kind of parliamentary rules that the city uses. For example, an abstention could be an acquiescing to the majority, and so it just depends. There's some issue. There's not issues. It just depends in the context of the situation. So I would say something like just general language like this, putting aside parliamentary rules, there's a reason why it says affirmative.
And thank you so very much. Do we know what type of parliamentary rules that the city of Compton uses?
Sorry, we don't. I respect the questions, Commissioner Baker, but I just will have to ask the chair if we could possibly maybe table this line of questioning. Again, there is active cases ongoing, and not that you're speaking on those matters, Commissioner Baker, but these meetings are recorded and available to the public, and I would hate for any of our discussions to possibly be used in active litigation ongoing with the city. So thank you very much for everyone.
If I may, my apologies. And thank you, Assistant City Manager.
Okay.
I respectfully understand the position of the city. And I guess I just want to say, for the listening public, the position that it also puts us in, that we can't make a clear decision on some of the issues at hand because they're, I guess under active litigation or possibly active litigation. So I understand all of the different positions of all of the different stakeholders. And I guess, it's unfortunate because I believe what we all should be representing is the stakeholder of the public as the most important stakeholder. And, I guess that's just my opinion on that, because if we can't even speak in general on some of these things, then that puts us between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, understood. All right.
I got a question.
Yes, Commissioner
Okay.
Holbrook.
I was understanding that when the new city manager came in, that it took 4 affirmative votes to get rid of him. But I'm looking in here and it says 3, so I need some clarification.
Okay, so everyone, I believe we've just gotten our marching orders that this particular matter is under litigation, so it's a conflict for us to have this discussion right now. Your questions are on the record, so they will be answered. We just can't give you a response right now because of active litigation. It could compromise the parties. So if we could just refrain, we can respect what we have been received and we can move on, but knowing that a response will be circled back to you at one point or another. Commissioner Quinteros.
Yes. So I do notice that there's a line for specifically the city manager on how they will be removed, but there is none for the city controller. And so I would ask that language be clarified. I don't know if the 3 out of 3 affirmative votes is also what's required for the city controller or for the city attorney. But also it seems kind of superfluous because 3/5 would be the majority anyway, so, but it specifies 3 out of 5. But I would just clarify that that's for all appointed positions under the city council, or is it only for the city manager. I don't think it's clear.
If I can just
Yes, of
say,
course.
just reading the charter language with respect to the city controller, and perhaps the assistant city manager, correct me, but it does indicate that they can be removed under the civil service provisions of the charter. So I suspect that the removal process is subject to the personnel rules of the city. So that pertains to the city controller.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that answers that question. Okay. All right. So anyone else for section 703? Okay. Let's see. Let me just give a recap again for our listening audience. What I've heard, and the record can autocorrect if needed, but we have recommendations, several, just in terms of how long, in terms of vacancies. So putting in a timeline for vacancies to be filled. We also have recommendation for adding an additional paragraph and/or language for the city attorney specifically under this section. We also have clarification for doing community roundtable type interviews to include the community at such vetting processes. And we also needed clarification just where it says officers, just kind of clarifying what that language looks like. Okay. Moving on into section 704, other appointive officers. Open for discussion.
Commissioner Baker, it appears that, I guess, this one should be removed. So, or at least referred back to, because, so of the appointed officers that are appointed by the city manager, so the only other appointed officers that are appointed by the city manager are the two assistant city managers? Okay, so maybe clarified that the city manager appoints the two assistant, because those are the only two people that the city manager appoints directly, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. And all other employees, whether they're union or not union, fall under the personal rules and regulations. They are under the overall authority of the city manager, but they have to go through the civil service requirements. Same with assistant city managers, but the city manager can only directly appoint the two assistant city managers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Quinteros? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand. Okay. Is there anyone else for section 704? Okay, so we have a recommendation just to clarify the language, just in terms of the city manager and who they designate. It sounds like it just needs to state there over the other two assistant managers, but just clarifying that in the language. All right, moving on. I want to clarify, Secretary, I have section 705 as a kept item. Is that correct?
Can you say that part again, sir?
I'm sorry? Oh, you didn't hear? I show on my table that section 705 is a kept item. Is that correct?
It was a tabled item.
Okay.
Excuse me? Yeah. According to the notes I took the day that you weren't here when the vice chair led the meeting, I had notated that it was to be tabled. I didn't record the name of who said it, but it was asked to be tabled. I think the conversation was in regards to the 1 year after term of expiration, but I'm not sure who brought that forward.
Okay. Let me just clarify the record. So on the table that we have, we show 705 as a kept item, but that may be a clerical error. It should note as a tabled item. Does anybody have any objections to moving 705 as listed on our table as a kept item to a tabled item, allowing us to discuss it today. Any objections?
I would object. I didn't table it, but in reading it, there's maybe, and maybe I'll take back that objection with some clarification, but it says that a city manager shall be chosen on the basis of his executive and administrative qualifications. And that seems very limiting to when you're looking to hire an individual in that position. Yes, their executive and administrative qualifications are huge and probably up there, but I'm just concerned with just limiting, expressly limited to those two things.
Okay, so before we get into the details, are you, just to be clear, you are, when you say object, you don't want to object to us bringing it to a tabled item for discussion?
No, sorry, I misheard that. Okay,
Yes.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So, any objections to changing item 705 from a kept item to a tabled item? Again, any objections to that? And if no objections, then we'll open it up for discussion. Okay, now, Commissioner Quinteros, it is now a tabled item. Now, repeat everything that you said.
Apologies. No, what concerns me is the language as to how a city manager is chosen. It expressly states two things: executive and administrative qualifications. And just out of the abundance of caution, I would like to broaden that. The executive and administrative qualifications, in addition to, I don't know, work history. I just feel there's so much more that should be considered. And I feel like when you list two things and then again don't include limited but not including but not limited to, it just kind of makes it the focus when there should be much more that gets
Okay, understood.
taken into account.
All right. Anyone else for section 705? Okay. What we have as a recommendation, again, we'll have a revised table to reflect that section 705 was moved from a kept item to a tabled item, open it up for discussion, and we have a recommendation very specifically to the language regarding the executive and administrative qualifications, just to broaden that language to be more specific in scope. All right, moving on into section 706, the city manager powers and duties. Open for discussion. Secretary Lister, you may have in your notes or you may not, just a refresher in terms of who brought this to.
I did notate that Commissioner Warren had asked to be tabled, but no, at that time, no one was required to say why they wanted to table it.
Okay.
So with him not being here.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so the person who brought this particular matter is not here today. Does there anyone else? I see Commissioner Quinteros, are your light on? Or you forgot to turn it off?
No, I guess this goes on to the other conversation. I think it was Commissioner Baker that brought up, there's only 2 appointed positions by the city manager. If you look at subsection A, it gives him the authority to appoint and remove, obviously subject to civil service provisions of this charter, all department heads of the city. If they are now, if department heads are no longer appointed by him and they're subject to the city's, what's the word, it's giving me, personnel board, then I feel A needs to be amended to reflect that and not expressly give the city manager the power to dismiss them.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
thank you. Yes, Commissioner Lister.
Commissioner Lister, I'm not sure how many of us here have been municipal employees, but in most cases, when you are a municipal employee and you have a union representing you and they begin termination processes, there tend to be various steps in that process, and appeals and whatnot. And in most cities, the final authority to say you're fired or you're retained rests with that city manager. So maybe when the HR department comes, they can confirm that or give greater detail, because I know in the case of termination, it's not just your department head, it's the department head, it's the HR director, and in some cases, it could be an assistant city manager or even the city manager to give that final sign off on that. So maybe they can specify that.
Thank you. We can definitely ensure that the HR director is able to clarify, and Commissioner Quinteros and Secretary Lister, you are both correct. The HR director will come on July 6th and explain in detail that, yes, the city manager is the quote-unquote final say, but it's not the final decision maker. All civil servants within the city, except for the 2 assistant city managers and the HR director, have the ability to appeal a termination or a written reprimand. And the city manager, yes, can terminate an employee, but the personnel board is the final governing body that can overturn that at one of their regularly scheduled meetings. So it's not, so the city manager, he or her, does not have the final call. The final call is up to the personnel board. And the HR director will explain more on July 6th. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so that recommendation will be held over. Anything else for section 706? Okay. All right, so we have a matter just held over for clarification from the HR director. All right, moving on to section 707. Let me just get clarification. Commissioner Lister, I show 707 as a kept item. Is that what you have as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, moving on into section 708. The city controller, powers and duties. Open for discussion.
Chair, I know that I had asked that to be tabled because I had questions regarding the city having a budget calendar, and I felt that on some level, if we did go in a direction to consider that being inserted, then it would need to be included or should be included under the city controller as far as processes and whatnot to be included in that section. So that's why I asked for that.
Okay, so let me just clarify for the listening audience, those who are present. So on your agenda, ladies and gentlemen, item 3, discussion of term limits and development of a formal budget calendar. You're asking, you put that on the agenda, you requested, and you're asking that.
No, what I'm saying is that when we were asking what items to keep and tabled, I know I asked for 708 to be tabled at that time because I knew eventually I was going to ask for a discussion regarding developing a formalized budget calendar that the city should follow. And if we did adopt it, that I felt that 708 would be the place it should go. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so you have a recommendation, or what are you asking specifically?
No. So you've been asking me, Commissioner Lister, who asked for that to be held,
Yes.
so on and so forth. I'm letting you know that I asked for 708 to be held.
Until today or until another time?
Back in April, I asked it to be held because I knew that when we got to 708, I was going to ask to discuss developing a budget calendar.
No, I hear you, but I'm saying, are you wanting to discuss that today?
No, sir, I want to hold that.
Okay.
Item number 3 on the agenda, I want to hold that.
Okay, perfect. All right. So back to what I was saying with the agenda, everyone, for item number 3, Commissioner Lister asked that to be on the agenda, and he's asking that that be respectfully held over. Unless any objections? Yes, you have an objection?
No, I just wanted to speak
Okay.
on 708, but no.
708? No, we can talk about 708. Yes.
Vice Butler, my only recommendation is maybe having a third party to help with the oversee for the controller, especially like when you're doing audits. I think that is very important for the controller. So that will be something that is very important. So having like a third party overseer
Okay.
to help assist the controller.
Okay. Okay. All right. Commissioner Lister, your light is on. Do you have a question? Commissioner Lister? No? Okay. All right. So we have one recommendation in section 708 for a third party to oversee the audits and other things. All right. Moving on into section 709. This is the city engineer, powers and duties. Open for discussion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Commissioner Holbrook.
Okay, for the city engineer, I think that it should be more qualifications spelled out and, have the degree or whatever in the engineering department. So I would like to have more qualifications on this.
Okay. Anyone else for section 709, city engineer, powers and duties? Commissioner Quinteros?
I think something that would be helpful to follow on what Commissioner Holbrook says is it requires the city engineer to be a registered civil engineer. So maybe flush out if we can get information as to what is required to meet that qualification. It may be that spells out the requirements we're looking for, but I'm not sure what it requires.
For the registration specific?
To be a registered civil engineer.
Okay.
Like, I'm assuming you have to submit something to the state, prove that you probably have an engineering degree in XYZ. Just what are the what qualifications that?
Understood. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so for section 709, there are two recommendations. One, just to include or spell out the qualifications for a city engineer, and another adding on top of that, just to flesh out the registered civil engineer component. What are those specific qualifications and duties? All right.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Baker.
Commissioner Baker.
So the city engineer is not an elected position.
Correct.
It's not an appointed position either. It's what, a classified? Would that be what they're called?
Open
Classified
competitive,
civil
yep.
service. My question to you all is: should it be in the charter then? If it's a classified civil service position, should that be listed in here, or should that just be in the personnel or HR, should that be just there, housed there, as opposed to spelled out here?
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Lister.
just from my personal opinion, I think the reason why it's mentioned specifically here, because the civil engineer, they're responsible for putting their seal on every construction project that the city approves to get built. And if that building should happen to close or to fall down, collapse, something major happens, and the city sued, then that person who stamps that is that person is attesting on behalf of the city that this is okay to be built, and so on and so forth. And I think most cities, and I'll do some research between now and the next meeting, I believe most cities in the city charter do include that position. They might even include some background as to why they do include it, to answer your question. And then also, to become a registered civil engineer, there's a test you have to take. It's called the ABT, accredited degree. And so any registered civil engineer anywhere, it's almost like having an architectural certification to do plans and all that. So if we were to include that in there, like Commissioner Quintero said, we should spell it out. Just don't say that, say what it actually is. In case down the line, someone finds a way to create a loophole. I'm in the process of getting my degree. Well, are you within a year away, or no, you have to have it at the time of appointment, something like that, so.
Okay. Commissioner Baker, just for clarification, that wasn't a recommendation. That was just a comment that you were making about should it be removed, or is that a recommendation?
It is a recommendation.
Okay. All right. So we have the two recommendations that I've spelled out in addition to the third recommendation to remove section 709, the city engineer powers and duties. As stated that it's already listed in the personnel manual. Anyone else?
Okay, and also, it says to be eligible, you must have a registered civil engineer degree, not shall.
Okay.
So I want that removed. Must.
You want, say it again?
Okay, it says, to be eligible, you shall have a registered civil engineer degree. And I'm saying you must have one. So I want to take shall out and put in must.
Okay, and what paragraph are you in? What section?
709.
No, what section, I'm sorry?
Engineer.
Second sentence.
The second sentence? Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, that was a recommendation. Section 709, the first paragraph, the word shall, last sentence, the city engineer shall. The recommendation is to change it to must. Okay, anything else? All right, moving on into section, before I move on, I'm gonna do a time check. It is 7:02. We get the option, if you all think we'll get bang for our buck by continuing on until 7:30 to finish, or if you'd like to call time now and we could finish this. I'm open. Anyone? Finish? Finish? Okay. All right. All right, section 710, street superintendent powers and duties, open for discussion.
Here.
Yes, Commissioner Holbrook.
Again, I'm asking for qualifications for the street superintendent, even though you only give him his powers and duties, but there's nothing saying what he should, his qualifications should be in order to be a street superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, anyone else for section 710? Street superintendent powers and duties. Okay, Commissioner Lister.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Holbrook because obviously it's an important position and a high-ranking position, but I don't know what's involved with being a street superintendent. I don't know if you are streets, if you're sidewalks, if you're anything beyond that and whatnot. And going to something else that Commissioner Baker mentioned, should it be something that is even listed here? But I don't even know what that does. So if we're going to keep it here, spell out maybe in greater detail what they do and what they're responsible for.
Commissioner Baker, just to kind of follow up with Commissioner Lister, I have a question for the Assistant City Manager. It may sound like an ignorant question. Do we currently have a street superintendent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do. His name is Marcus Harris.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Marquez. You had a question?
Yes, just a question for staff. Ms. Benz, when was he, if you know off the top of your head, when was he appointed to that, or when was he given that position of street superintendent?
Thank you, Commissioner Marquez. Street Superintendent Harris has been in the position formally appointed by the Personnel Board little less than 1 year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Quinteros.
This position is important and touches to a lot of issues and headaches that residents of the city go through driving in and out. I would recommend in the requirements of what their duties are to issue an annual report as to the status of our streets and sewers and just the overall stability of the city. It says, they have to inspect, they have to investigate, but nothing about any submitting, and I'm sure they do, and they may have city council meetings where they give reports and updates, but I think that it would be beneficial to the residents and everyone to hear at least once a year from them, guaranteed, what is the status of the city's, streets and such.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
Last thing, Commissioner Baker. So if my understanding of the difference between the city engineer and the street superintendent, which I'm glad we have one, perhaps I do need to attend more city council meetings. The street superintendent is more so responsible for the sewage and I guess physical engineering and infrastructure of the city, versus the city engineer is more so responsible for, I guess, the site mapping and I guess guess, records and layout and the plans of the city as far as from a surveying perspective. Am I correct in that regard?
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Yes, you are very close. To help the listening public understand, we refer to them internally on the staff side as Public Works Engineering and Public Works Streets. So the engineering side, yes, does deal with the logistics and the architectural designs of the city, and they also look at our sewer systems in addition to our water department. Our street superintendent, who oversees our street maintenance division, looks at the physical health and infrastructure of our streets, and they're in charge of roadway repairs, and they also manage our street lighting maintenance. So both departments, our engineering department and our streets department, work hand in hand. I will ensure that the Public Works Director brings copies of the job specs to the July 6th meeting so that you're able to have that information.
Yes, ma'am. That would be helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, section 710, is there anything else? All right, we have as recommendations is qualifications being spelled out for the street superintendent. Another recommendation to possibly remove section 710 as it may be duplicate in the personnel manual. And another recommendation to have an annual performance report on the status of items performed by the street superintendent. All right, moving on into section 711, building official powers and duties. Open for discussion. Commissioner Holbrook. Yes. Turn your mic on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Dolores Holbrook. Again, qualifications. All it says is examine building plans, but what are your qualifications to do this? So I'm asking for qualifications.
Understood. Anybody else? Okay.
Commissioner Baker, I would like to add, so the building official enforces the laws and ordinances regulated. From my understanding, from opening different businesses in different localities, the building official has so much power, and it can even be unchecked power. That if the building official wants to shut something down or wants to hold something up, then so shall it be. And I guess if we were to change or add anything to this, or maybe this is a municipal code type of thing, but I would like to see some type of provision or system to the same as, I guess, and this is maybe a crude analogy, the same as like a city manager, if they say, if they want to remove someone from a position, it then has to go before the personnel board and these different departments. I would say that same thing with the building official. If they want to shut down, the construction of a business, or or if they wanted to shut down or block a project, maybe there should be some type of language added in here, pertaining to that they have to go through a certain process before that's done, as opposed to I just sign something and say nope, or I just sign something and say yes. That's a great deal of power that building official has.
All right, understood. Anyone else? Section 711. Yes.
Yes, I have
Commissioner
a
Marquez.
question for staff, and then I have a comment. Building official, Ms. Benz, do you know if that position is filled?
That position is technically filled by a staff member, Victor Orozco. I'm not sure if his title is actually building official or if it's an interim role, but I do know that the role in theory is filled by Victor. And we will take note of all the comments that you guys are providing, just to keep in mind, again, recommendations that require a change to civil servant job descriptions do require a meet and confer from the unions. So the unions have to agree to it. Again, the personnel director will be here on July 6th to explain the meet and confer process. So I want to be just forthright with you that you guys do have the ability during this legislative group to make recommendations to civil servant job titles, but the ultimate decision rests with the meet and confer from each union group. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Marquez.
Yes, okay, thank you. So with that being said, I think we need to put some language in here, because on B it says enforce laws and ordinance regulating the construction and maintenance of buildings and other structures. I and a couple of other members, we fought the Olson project. Both of them on Central, and we had a concern at the one next to the Trent Shoring of having 60 units and no emergency exit townhomes. So if this person is to enforce the laws and these people are having their lives put in danger and not even know it, we need to put some type of language in here that if this person is found to be violating and not doing their job, they need to be reprimanded for their actions. So we need to put something in here that is a oversight seer of this person for to say.
Okay, understood. Anyone else? Section 711. Okay, so what we have is qualifications to be spelled out, and we have checks and balances put in place for the powers of the building official, to include language and a system of accountability for when a failure to perform. All right.
And Commissioner Baker, I apologize. I recommend it just be removed. Anything that's pertaining to a civil classified position, it just, in my opinion, shouldn't be in here, because we can make all the recommendations that we want, but that's subject to the contracts that have already been negotiated with the collective bargaining agreement and all of those different things, I suppose. Is that correct, Assistant City Manager? Okay, so I would just recommend it just be removed, so that's my recommendation.
Okay. Let me just say this, team, just so that we can just establish some rules. So once I go through and I ask for final wording or any input in that section, if you could respond then and not after, just so that we can make sure that the record stays very accurate. Okay, Commissioner Gideon.
Yes, in terms of the items that we're discussing, perhaps we should look at other charters to see how they deal with, because that's one of the recommendations in a charter review process. Look at how other cities have addressed these issues rather than just looking at our document itself.
Okay. Understood. Okay.
Chair?
Yes.
And one of the things that I'm always curious about is, why did something get put in, and when did it get put in? So maybe someone in the community, or maybe there's a staffer somewhere that might have some type of historical information for us to let us know why this got put in, the various positions. Because at some point in time, some other council, some other city charter committee felt that it was important to put these positions in here beyond the director of recreation or the director of planning. So if we go down the path of recommending taking something out, let's make sure that we can explain the rationale, be it what Commissioner Baker said, it falls under civil service. There's nothing that the charter itself can do about it. The person has protections in some other area, and that's why we took it out. And if we do take things out, let's keep an annotated version somewhere too, because in 20 years, somebody at that time might say, well, why in 2026 did they take it out? We don't know why it was put in there. I'm quite sure when the city was first incorporated, this probably wasn't the way it is now. And I'm not saying we should keep anything, but if we do take things out, let's make sure we explain the rationale and and require the city clerk to keep an annotated copy. So when the next commission comes back and says, well, what were they looking at in 26? And what did they come up with? So that's all.
Understood. All right, so moving on into section 712, Chief of Police, Powers and Duties. Open for discussion.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Lister.
First off, I think with the new city department called Department of Public Safety, I'm not sure if that position's title is chief or whatever that is, but whatever it is, we should have that position reflect chief of police, because we don't have a police department, but we do have a chief of a head of that department who has sworn officers, or new officers will be post-certified on some level, whatever. So if we do keep this, I'd like to recommend that we change it from chief of police to the public safety director or whatever.
The accurate title for
Yes,
who the
yes,
person
sir.
holds that
Yes, sir.
position. Understood. Okay, anyone else? Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner
Baker, I recommend it to be removed.
What be removed?
Section 712.
Okay. Going back to what Commissioner Lister just previously said, if we're going to remove something, he's recommending that we give just, you can explain?
I recommend that it be removed because, I guess let's pause then. So, Assistant City Manager, who would be the current Chief of Police?
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. So we do not have a sworn police department, but we do have a public safety department, and the director of public safety is Mr. Anthony Ward.
So, and thank you. I guess I would recommend that it be removed because it appears that that position is obsolete. And this is, it's a director of public safety, but there's no chief of police currently.
Okay, understood. Anyone else? Okay, everyone, and this is where I'm saying anyone else, that is your time to chime in now and not after. Anyone else? Okay, all right, let me give what we have for section 712. We have two recommendations, polar opposites. One, to update the specific title of Chief of Police to the specific title who holds that position, and another to remove section 712 in its entirety. All right, moving on into the last section in 700, section 713, Chief of Fire Department, Powers and Duties. Open for discussion. Commissioner Holbrook? I think you're going to say qualifications. Understood.
Thank you.
Okay. Understood. Anyone else?
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
is this position, this Chief of Fire Department position, is this a classified civil servant position as well? Okay, I would recommend that it be removed, that the whole section 713 be removed, and the reason being is because their job duties should be housed in the personnel or HR documents, or their job descriptions.
Yes, Commissioner Lister?
Commissioner Lister, and in regards to that particular position, I'm not in favor of it being removed. When we have a discussion later on, we can go into that, but I believe that directly ties into public safety, which should be addressed in charter. Maybe the language needs to be updated or changed, or qualifications need to be inserted in there, that we make sure that we get somebody that has a professional certifications of being a top-tier firefighter captain. Maybe they need to be a chief from another department, or at least a battalion chief minimum within our current department. But I view the fire department as one of those public safety positions that's really important. If we had our own police department, I would feel the same way regarding police chief, but we don't, so I kind of get that one.
All right.
But I'm not in favor of eliminating that from here.
Okay, understood. Commissioner Quinteros?
Question. So, in past times when the city manager seat has been vacant, I've heard that the chief of fire takes that seat if no one's filled it. That's not. We went through the city manager portion of it, and also here under 713. I don't see that anywhere in the charter, so I don't know how we got there. But if that is the proper protocol, that the chief of fire is the one who fills the city manager's position when it's vacant, that should definitely be stated in the charter, I think.
I can speak to that, Commissioner Quinteros. Just recently with the vacancy of our last city manager, I was also under the impression that that was in the city charter and also in the city municipal code. We did a legal opinion and were unable to find categorical evidence that that the fire chief is supposed to serve in the absence of the city manager. The only position in the personal rules and regulations and in the city charter that's supposed to serve in the absence of the city manager is the assistant city manager and/or an acting city manager.
That makes
So I hope that helps.
a lot more sense. And then I would withdraw my recommendation and just note that.
We got clarity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other recommendations? Yes, Commissioner Marquez.
Commissioner Marquez, I have a question for Ms. Benz. What's the process of hiring and firing, if you know, of the chief?
Of the fire chief?
Yes.
I do not know, but I will definitely add that to my notes for the HR director.
Okay, and then again, we need to add whatever her research comes back, we need to add that into the charter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else for section 713? Again, anything else? Section 713. All right. So we have adding the qualifications for the chief of the fire department, and we have two polar recommendations. One, remove section 713, and one, do not. Okay. All right. So that concludes section 700. For the interest of time, I want to just move right into public comments, non-agenda item. Yes.
If you don't mind, I do have the answer to the question that was asked about the Secretary of State.
Oh, yes.
If I can just go ahead and do that, I found a memo
Of course,
on our
yes.
system. When the voters approved a charter, it constitutes ratification of the charter amendment. However, it doesn't effectuate the charter, meaning it doesn't go into full effect until it's filed and accepted by the Secretary of State. And so the clerk needs to, and that's why you see a lot of documents attached to that filing. The clerk needs to authenticate and certify the document, and the document is recorded with the county. One is kept with the city, and a third copy is filed with the Secretary of State. And when it's filed with the Secretary of State, the Secretary will then publish it in the statutes in a charter designation series, which is specific to charter cities, indicating the date of ratification of the election and the date of filing with the Secretary of State. And then the second part of this, and why it's important, is that then once it's filed with the Secretary of State, our court system can take judicial notice of the charter. And what that means is that judicial notice in litigation is like a shortcut to saying to the court, I'm going to seek judicial notice of this document because the facts are true. There's no dispute of the facts. And so filing with the Secretary of State allows the charter, if it's ever used as evidence in court, to be judicially noticed as a document that it's true and correct.
Okay.
So it really has two bases. One is that it's effectuated, means it goes into effect once it's filed with the state, and the courts can take judicial notice.
All right, understood.
Thank you.
Okay, so another time check. It's 7:26. I'm going to be mindful of the time. So for public comments and anything else on the agenda, you're going to see me very gently and very professionally move you along, again, for the interest of time. So public comments, 1 minute. And again, you will see me be a little firm than usual.
Abril Villanueva. I wanted to make a comment about Section 706, City Manager Responsibilities, does not by itself grant investigative authority over all matters of city business, but under Municipal Code 2.7, Powers and Duties of the City Manager, does. So I respectfully request clarifying charter language for investigation into potential city charter violations, and specifically by city commissioners. So I hope that this is included into the city charter. In the past, there has been some confusion if it was a responsibility of the city manager or the city attorney. So if they were responsible for initiating, conducting, and concluding investigations along with applicable due process, ethics, and reporting requirements. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That was right under a minute. And Secretary Lister is keeping us accountable with our time. And again, you see me cut you off if you go over a minute, so.
No, I'm not going to go. I'm going to make it
Go
real
ahead.
brief. This right here is just like a Bible. This is our Bible. We cannot go in here and just remove stuff. We can amend, but why remove stuff? You can amend it. For us, the city clerk, city treasurer need to be bonded. They need to be bonded. Because you're dealing with money, you're dealing with documents, need to be bonded. For as the chief is concerned, that last part, I think it was 7, whatever it was, leave that in there. Do not take anything out of here. Please don't. Just have it amended. God wouldn't like us to go into the Bible and take everything out and put what we wanted in there, because it don't work that way. We are a charter city. This is our Bible. We need to inherit to our Bible. We need to add to it, amend to it, but remove, no, it's going to cost us money. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony Perry for the record. First and foremost, I want to say thank you all, appreciate you. I have more of a suggestion and a comment, and we also got to think about the survival of Compton. Section 712, our chief of police. It's important that we actually have a chief of police because our sheriffs is out of control. We need at least someone that can report to Compton. Our sheriffs do not report to us. We also got to think about no police, no fire department, we have no city. Especially with our city manager issues, we cannot allow the state to come and turn this into Los Angeles. In the district of Compton, we must protect Compton, and I advocate for at least a chief of police to oversee the sheriff. So let's keep that in mind for the survival of Compton. We need a police, and we need our fire department. Thank you.
Section 5, Vanessa for the record. Section 505 speaks to the vacancies. I know a lot of questions were asked about that, but it speaks to the vacancies and how soon we should have those seats occupied. So if you just read over that, you'll find out exactly what you're looking for. Now, Mr. Marquez brought up voter ID. I'm not against that. We did that. I've been voting ever since I was 18 years old. When we walked into a voting, what we call polls then, now they're called centers, we showed ID, addresses were verified, we know exactly who was voting. And I wouldn't say that that was voter oppression, because if you remember the 2020 election with Biden and Trump, Georgia flipped the Republican Party in Georgia. If it was not for Georgia, Biden would not have been sitting in that seat. And they do ask, it's a voter ID state every time you go and vote in Georgia. Not only that, North Carolina got large tranches of votes. And if it was not for those southern states,
Thank you,
he
ma'am.
would not have won.
Thank you so much. Okay, anyone else? Okay, State your name.
Don't worry, I'll be back to the next meeting, okay? Lynn
Okay.
Boone, once again, 505, sir, if you read it, it does address the timelines for appointments. 702, this city manager, assistant city manager, very nice, very intelligent, but I feel she is a conflict of interest for this meeting because the changes that are being pushed were being pushed by the past city manager who is no longer here. And she was appointed by this person, so she's really pushing his agenda. And if you read F under 702, that's us. That's the people here in the city. Okay, so right now, Mr. Marquez said that 702 hasn't really been changed in the charter because the charter is a living, breathing document. It hasn't been changed because it hasn't been updated with the Secretary of State. So your charter is supposed to address current issues of what's going on in the city. So that's why it hasn't been changed. And like I said, I'll be back because I have more. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much. Okay. State your name, please.
Good evening, Aaliyah Hayden. I recommend two things real quick. One, that we add a description and we add a formal number for the safety department head and a description of what that individual's position should be and their description of their duties. Also, I recommend, if we're using Robert's Rules of Orders to run our meetings, council and commissions and so forth, that we put that in the new charter.
Okay. Thank you.
Compton has an opportunity
name.
to succeed
State
and
your
break
name.
the paradigm of chronic failure.
Sir, you want to state your name?
Ron, you guys know my name by now.
Okay.
In other words, this is our chance to create a constitution that the community will support and be proud of. That will happen once every community member has a stake in the process. That means you must reach into the community, meet people where they are, and if invited, attend their meetings, listen, and ask clarifying questions as needed. Formally invite the community, Compton Community School District and Compton College to become civic engagement partners in the charter review process, not to decide the charter, but to help educate residents, host public forums, conduct research, and broaden community participation. As part of your legacy, you can establish a model in which the city, its K-12 schools, and community college jointly cultivate informed civic participation whenever Compton undertakes major governance reforms.
Okay, thank you. Okay, state your name, please.
Hernaldo Gutierrez. I have a question regarding, well, I would like to ask the members to include a justification or reasoning as to why or how it is beneficial for the community when you're making your suggestions or comments. I submitted an email regarding our participation and how that was going to be in. I don't know if it's going to be an answer through email, or is it going to be answered through here, or how do we get to participate? So I don't know if I need to bring all those emails, come here and try to squeeze them all in 3 minutes, which I don't know how that's going to happen. Section 709, it was the shall versus a must. Private practice, we use shall because that's a requirement. A must is vice versa. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, time check. It is 7:35. All right, for the rest of the meeting, we have Charter Review Committee member comments, and then we'll adjourn. I'm going to ask that we just be respectful of everybody's time. This is probably the longest meeting thus far to date. So, Charter Review Committee member comments. If I can start, and I'll be mindful of the time. Two things that I do want to state is we have heard from the community that the need for community engagement is paramount. We've heard it, and we are starting to move in that direction. Again, we got to crawl before we can walk, so give us some grace. But what we will start is I want to make a request to Ms. Ben's office if the public information officer could send out some kind of media blast. We got to get more, excuse my French, more butts in the chairs, right? I do know that our online presence is growing. For those of you who may not be aware, we have more people watching us online, and that number increases week after week than we do have people here present. But I think someone said it best. If you're not in the room, you miss the temperament and you miss everything that's going on. So if we could have the public information officer send out some kind of media blast through all residents, encouraging them, letting them know that we're here, letting them know to participate. We'd love to see them. In addition to that, in terms of community involvement, it was also stated earlier today in public comments that emails are coming through, and I don't want people to feel that your emails are not being addressed. They are. We are creating a protocol where we'll put them on future agenda items. So as your emails come in, you'll see those emails added. Starting with the July 13th meeting, those emails will be added to the agenda. Now, if you're going to send an email, I'm going to ask this to everyone and just state the protocol for our listening audience. Please send those emails to Tamara Ben's office. Is that okay? If you could just state your email and do it better justice than I can.
Thank you. My email address is tbenz, T, B as in boy, INNS, @comptoncity.org, and I will include a flyer from our public information office with a link to my city email address, so the public is able to submit feedback that they'd like to be considered at future upcoming meetings.
Okay, perfect. So again, we have started the charge that you all have given us, community involvement. How to do that? You can send an email to the Assistant City Manager. If you have a question, comment, concern, you can send that email. It will be placed on a future agenda. And if you're not here, then who better to present your own information than you being present to present that? So I would prefer, if you're going to send something, that you also be here so that you can give credit to what you've asked us to do. But if not, it will at least be placed on the agenda in your absence. Okay, so those are the two items. Again, we're starting that process. We've heard you all, and we're starting that process for getting community engagement. But you all can do better. Your boots on the ground. You can do better than we can. Each one. Tell your neighbors. Tell them about what's going on. If they want to participate, we encourage them to do so. All right. Anyone else for comment? Yes, Ms. Gideon.
Yes.
Commissioner Gideon.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose adding a new agenda item titled Grant Summary and Funding Strategy for our upcoming meetings. In the email I sent to each member individually yesterday, I attached a summary of top 3 best bets grants supporting Compton's charter reform initiative to be included in our next meeting agenda. Another option would be to have a dedicated item over the next 3 meetings to discuss each grant opportunity separately. As we continue our charter review work, it's important that we understand what grant opportunities are currently available. We want to consider how potential funding aligns with our long-term goals. Having a dedicated agenda item would allow us to regularly identify new opportunities and discuss a coordinated strategy for securing resources that support our recommendation. This will help ensure transparency, keep the committee informed, and strengthen our ability to plan effectively. I believe by adding this item, it will help us stay proactive and better position us to move our work forward. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gideon, just for the record, I don't know if you checked your email, but a response was given back to you regarding your agenda item. It's going to be placed on the next meeting. I don't know if you had time to check your email yet.
As a member of the committee, it is my opportunity, it's my right to ask that an item be placed on the agenda. So I don't know what your response was, but.
You haven't checked it yet. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right. We are at adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. The time is now 7:41. Thank you so much, everyone. Get home safely.